everyone, namaste. Welcome to the first episode of my new show, HumeraWood, which will bridge the gap between Hollywood and Bollywood. The show's not just going to be about Hollywood and Bollywood. We're also going to add some other film industries from around the world, like Nollywood in Africa. Let me give a little introduction about myself. I was born in Hyderabad, India, which is called the City of Pearls. Every pearl in the world is processed there. My paternal grandfather was a freedom fighter with Gandhi. He was also a criminal attorney. When India was fighting for its independence, I heard stories. My grandfather passed before I was born, but I heard stories about how he would stand on a bus and through a bullhorn, he would address crowds of thousands. And he was so charismatic that even the rowdiest kid in the back would just be quiet and listen to him speak. So when India won its independence, my grandfather went on to become an MLA, which is the equivalent of a US Senator in India for the first Prime Minister of a free India. And so my father, when he was 10 years old, a picture was taken of him with India's the second most populous country in the world. So this photo of the first Prime Minister of India, Pandit Nehru, was walking in the street with his whole security team, and there's crowds all around. And then this photo of Pandit Nehru and my father, he's touching my father's head as a child. So my father grew up in India. In India, the film industry is huge. Like everybody, that's like people's escape from reality. It's just a huge, everywhere you go in India, you'll see posters for movies on walls, billboards, anything. There's no way you cannot know when a new movie's being released. So, like many, Indian people, my dad had dreams of becoming a Bollywood star, and he's actually very talented. And he went to college at Aligarh University, and this is actually a very prominent, well-known university in India. At that university, my dad was very active in the drama club. He acted on many stage shows, Shakespeare shows, and a wide range. He was very well known in his university, and he wanted to be a Bollywood star. But what happened was his father, who was my paternal grandfather, who was the freedom fighter with Gandhi, he was a politician, and of course that's very stressful. And he passed very suddenly from a massive heart attack when my father was in college. So actually my father said when he was at his desk studying, and there was a photo of my grandfather, and all of a sudden it just fell down. And my father was like, what happened, And his family didn't tell him that my grandfather had passed because they didn't want him to lose focus on his exams and get, anxious. So my father didn't know until later that his father had passed at that exact moment when the photo fell. So my father, because his father passed, my dad took the more stable route and became a doctor. But he still always had that love for Bollywood. So he passed that love on to me and my sister. I was born in India, but when I was 2 months old, I went to England, Coventry, England. That's where Lady Godiva's from. When I was 6 months old, my parents and I moved to Columbia, Missouri, which is in the Midwest of the United States of America. When I was 6 years old, we moved to West Virginia, and I grew up in West Virginia until I went to high school. Now, when I grew up, there were very few Indian families in my community, maybe at the most even 20 families. And at that time, I grew up in the 80s. There weren't any real Indian role models in the Western cinema and on television that I could actually relate to and look up to. And I grew up and everybody was really nice. Everything was good, but I still felt different. Our food was different. My name, I didn't like my name growing up because everybody mispronounced it. Which is kind of amazing because now there's a medication which is similar to my name, and it's advertised everywhere. So when I say my name, people are like, oh, like the medication. So things do change. But when I was growing up, I remember any movie that was about even remotely from Hollywood that was about India, we watched over and over and over again, like Indiana Jones Temple of Doom. Now, in that movie, I mean, they show like Indian people are eating bugs and monkey brains and eyeballs, and it's like that's just how we eat. That's our cuisine, which is totally incorrect. So growing up, when I said, "Yeah, I'm from India," people were like, "Oh, you eat monkey brains, you eat bugs," and I was like, "No, we don't." So there was another movie that I remember watching a lot, which was called Far Pavilions, and it was also some of it was based in India. And there was the main female character in that movie was supposed to be an Indian woman, but it was actually played by a Hollywood actress who was Caucasian. So I guess she tried to like make her skin look darker and look more Indian. But even though she wasn't of Indian ethnicity, the story was still of something to do with India. So, one of the reasons I'm doing this show is because I want to bridge the gap between Hollywood and Bollywood. I feel like both, like Bollywood films, when you see them on screen in India, I remember growing up, we would go to India every 3 years and I'd stay there all summer. So when I stay there, we would see every new Bollywood movie that comes out. And at that time, the screens were huge. Like screens here are probably like not even maybe 1/7 of the size as the screen was in India at the time when I was growing up and I went there. And I mean, these theaters hold hundreds of people. And like I said, even though like they have many movie theaters, I mean, India's still the second most populous country in the world. And so like to go to a new movie or some movie that had a popular star in it, you had to go and buy the tickets well in advance, like book your ticket and stand in lines. And even then the movie would sell out. So it's very common in India to you go to a movie and you see people trying to sell tickets in black, like, hey, you need a ticket, but you see it everywhere. But when you go to a Bollywood movie, your whole family joins. It's an event, it's like almost a family reunion. You're like, hey, this new movie came out, let's all get together and go watch it. And everybody gets so excited. It's almost like we're going on vacation, it's like a escape. And I remember growing up, my favorite movie was actually a movie that was very westernized, but it was a Bollywood movie. It was called Qurbani, and it was about like crime and this and that, but it was very like the main actress, like in India, they call the actor a hero. And the main lead, the hero, the male lead, the female lead, they call the heroine. It's heroine, but they pronounce it heroine. So the movie that my favorite heroine of all time is Zeenat Aman. She was big in like the 70s and 80s. And she was just actually she's half, I think, German and half Indian. But she was just so glamorous. I mean, in the movie Qurbani, you can look at trailers on YouTube and you'll see what I'm talking about. She's wearing like she was like a nightclub singer. So she wore all these gowns with all these boas and she's like singing and she's just like it was just the music in that movie became a super hit. Like they had a famous singer from Pakistan who actually sang the songs in that movie in India. They have lip singing. Almost every movie is a musical, and but it's not, the actor and actress are usually not the ones actually singing the song. It's someone else, like playback singers, and they're just lip syncing. But even then, the movie, a Bollywood movie is it's just a whole experience, the visuals, the audio sounds. I mean, it's just amazing. And Bollywood cinema has come leaps and bounds from what it was to what it is now. And actually, the focus of my show today is going to be on Priyanka Chopra. She is the most well-known, prominent crossover star at the moment from Bollywood to Hollywood, who was successful in making the transition. There have been many stars that have tried to make the transition, and they just were not as successful. So there's definitely something about Priyanka Chopra that connects with people from all over the world, not just India and America. There's something about her. And I'm going to actually have on this show. This is okay. We're showing a picture of Priyanka Chopra when she was 13 years. No, this is when she was a teenager. She was born in India and she spent most of her childhood in India. But then she actually moved to America at the age of 13 and lived with her aunt, who, because she wanted to experience what life was like in America. She had said in a couple of interviews that in India, she had to wear uniforms and she wanted the freedom of not wearing uniforms and be able to express herself through fashion. So she came to America, and she was there. She was here for 3 years, from the age 13 to 16, I believe. She lived in Massachusetts. She lived in New York. She lived in Iowa. And I remember her saying that she was a very insecure teenager. Like, she came to America and she faced racism. She faced people calling her like curry and this and that. And she was just very insecure. So she even says people would make fun of her legs because she had like white marks on her legs, but now her legs sell like 12 brands. So going back to her, Priyanka Chopra. So when she moved back to India after living in America for 3 years, her mother, she entered her into a couple of beauty pageants, one being Miss World. And she actually was hesitant to enter, but her mom said, no, I think you're beautiful. You need to enter this pageant. So she ended up winning second place in Miss World. And I mean, in Miss India, and what happens is in India, like when you're in the Miss India pageant, the first place winner, she goes into the Miss Universe pageant as in India's entry. The second place winner goes to the Miss World pageant. And actually that year, I think it was 2000, they had both the first and second place of the Miss India competition. They both went on to win the Miss Universe and Miss World title. The woman who won Miss Universe her name is Laura Datta, and she also made the leap into Bollywood films, and she did find some success, but it's nowhere near as much as what Priyanka Chopra has been able to obtain. So someone that's going to help me later on the show, she's supposed to join me. I think she's getting ready to join me. I'm going to text her really quick. But her name is Madhu. Okay, there she is. My girl Madhu, how are you?
Hello, Humera.
I was like, where's Madhu?
So good to see you.
Oh, you look beautiful. I love your jewelry.
Thank you for including me in this.
Oh, thank you for giving me the honor of being on my show.
So exciting. I've never done anything like this before, so this will be fun for me.
We're going to make this show fun. Like that's one of the points of my show, is because there's so much sadness in this world. I want to be more of a positive light and do something that brings people joy and happiness. Like people say, even when they were alone, they still had their music. And music, and the industry, music, films, they're like a way of expressing art. They bring beauty to this world. And like I was saying on the previous show that I was on, there's a saying that the word earth without art in it would just be So I mean, like, it brings beauty to this world.
Yeah.
So Madhu, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Okay, I will. My name is Madhu Chaturvedi, as she said, and I too live in West Virginia, and I've been here for, oh my gosh, since 1975. So it's been a long time. I am a psychologist. I trained here. And I'm now retired I used to work for Kanauka in a school system for 34 years almost. Loved every minute of it. And I still love the idea of being in psychology. And I don't know, for some reason, I cannot see you. Can you still see me?
I can see you. Maybe your camera's off.
Okay, let me see if I can.
Everyone, this is a live show, and this is our first show, so please be patient with us. We're still, we're sorry, we're learning the ropes.
Yes,
It's a big, we
here
have to
we
go into
are.
studios and backstage, and we have mic, and we have camera, and everything. So can you see me now?
Yes, I can.
Thank God.
When
Okay, Mother, so please.
never having done this, and like I said, I've been here, and I grew up in India. Of course,
Allahabad.
yeah, a little bit older than you. So I grew up there, and what you were saying is so right about Bollywood. I remember on Sundays on television they would show a movie on Sunday night, and those people that did not have TV in the neighborhood, it would be like the event of the.
They all go to the one person who has a TV, right? I remember that from when the summers I went there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we call them living rooms here, and we call them drawing rooms over there after the British pattern of language. And so everyone would gather over there, and it would be the most exciting thing that happened on Sundays to watch a Bollywood movie. So of course, like you said, it takes you away from the reality of life, and it's glamorous, it's funny, it's happy. Everyone dresses up in the movies, and so it's a lovely escape and a good way to spend an evening with your friends and neighbors.
Well, what I know is from when I used to go to India, if a really popular heroine had a different hairstyle or had a different outfit, that would just become the rage in India. Like every shop selling that. Like I remember back in I think the 60s, Sadhna, she had the
Yeah,
Sadhna cut. She cut
the
bangs. Like the one of
and
the right? The 60s actresses. I've watched older movies, and because my father, since I can remember, I've been watching Bollywood movies. We had collections of VHS tapes. We had hundreds and hundreds. And my dad, we would go to India and we'd go to Mumbai to
uh,
shootings. And I saw all these actors, like them filming the movies. I've met so many actors. Even in America, I don't know if you've gone to any of the shows where they come, the Bollywood stars, they perform. Have you been to any of the
no,
shows?
no, I have not. I've not.
Well, my dad would make sure that we had tickets to all. Oh, this is a funny story. Okay, so we would get the tickets not only to the show, which
Uh-huh.
we get the prime seats, we will get the dinner with the stars after that. Not only that, my dad would find out what hotel the stars are staying at, and we would stay in that hotel. And as a kid, my dad would be like, he would find out what room. So we go, me and my sister would go say, go knock on the door. So we'd be knocking on the door, like, hi. But the Hollywood actors, like I remember Saif Ali Khan was one of the people that answered the door, and it was just so funny. I mean, it was an experience, and looking back at it, I mean, when I was growing up, we'd be like, oh no, not another Bollywood movie moment, because my dad, like at the time, growing up in West Virginia, there weren't any Indian restaurants,
There
so
was,
wherever we go, that was like any kind of urban town. My
yeah.
dad first thing look up Indian restaurants, and we go there. And I remember when I was younger, and now my son does this now, but I did it too. I would take McDonald's into the Indian restaurant, and I eat my food. My dad, like it was just like, it's a different experience when you grow up here, and you have two beautiful daughters.
Thank you so much. I have two daughters indeed. They're both settled. And of course, they don't live with us. They have their own lives.
Yeah.
They too were subjected to the same torture that you were subjected to, of being made to watch Bollywood movies, and on functions, we have the local functions.
Diwali function, I saw them perform it. Beautiful dancers.
They were,
I remember that. Did they do the Rekas, Umrao Jal? Did they do some? I remember. Yeah, they did, right?
Yeah,
I do.
did that one dance, dance and song together. Of course, I'm sure they didn't, I'm sure they hated me for doing that to them. But that was the way to relate to a culture that we were not part of at that time. Now,
Yeah.
which is available in here, that you don't feel so isolated like we all did a long time ago, so far removed from India. But and I'm sure my daughter didn't enjoy that, but they were cooperative and they would dress up and dance and all that. But you have chosen the right person to bring about. Do you know?
Oh yes, Priyanka Chopra. Yeah. But let me just say something about Madhu. I've known Madhu since I was a young child. Like one of the things about being non-resident Indians living in America is when you move here, you don't like if you live in a rural area like we do, you don't have your family there, like your actual blood family. So actually the other Indian, Pakistan, people become like our family. They're like the kids I grew up with who are, Indian or Pakistan descent. I mean, we were all South Asian. We all were like, they're like my cousins and
I,
we're like family. So let's get back to the topic of the show. So what do
absolutely.
you think of Priyanka Chopra, Madhu?
I think she's the perfect person to do what your show is doing, to bridging the gap, because she was so popular in Bollywood, and as we can see, she's so popular in Hollywood, and has just merged the two cultures seamlessly. It seemed like she's the most seamless person that I know that's been able to bridge the two cultures. But what I like about her a lot is, I don't know if you know, I mean, you probably know this because you must have done some research, that she actually has a foundation.
I do know that for girls to help, right?
On helping, and she turns in 10% of her
Yes, I
earnings.
did read that. I did read that.
Which I think is tremendous, because it's not just for herself. She's looking beyond herself, which is what we all need to be doing. There's
Yes.
to work for the greater good of humanity.
Exactly. And one thing I wanted, because most people, especially in America, they know Priyanka Chopra was Miss World, and then the next thing they know is that she starred in Quantico. They
Yeah.
don't really know about her film history in Bollywood before she made the leap to Hollywood. And
Yeah.
even at the time when she was in Bollywood, during her rise to fame, she did very groundbreaking work in very movies that were like original. I mean, they were like one of a kind for their time. They were like the first, pioneer. She's a pioneer. And that's actually what I want to talk about in this show, is focus on her rise to fame in Bollywood and talk about a couple of movies that were really groundbreaking.
And I
So your favorite movie is the first one I want to talk about. You told me Itras.
So I was going to say that I hope you're going to touch upon that movie, because that was
Yeah.
such a dynamic role changer of a movie for an Indian actress to be cast in that role that she was on. And I'm sure you saw the movie. So
Well, a little bit of background about Itharaz. Okay, now this was not Priyanka Chopra's first Bollywood movie, but is the movie that actually her breakout role, that like actually critics said, okay, a star is born, with this movie. Now this movie is based on the movie Disclosure. If you remember, it was Demi Moore's role, where it's about sexual harassment, but it's about the woman doing the sexual harassment.
yes.
And she played like a negative character, which was also kind of a very brave thing to do. But when I was reading the reviews, they said that she stole every scene, and she was so successful at the audience hating her character,
I
that
remember that. Yeah, I remember that, because it was not something that our Indian Bollywood heroes were used to portraying, siren, and it was a role beyond the scope of the regular heroines that she undertook when she took the Demi Moore role, for her boldness in being able to approach a man with whatever she wanted out of a relationship, which was an unusual thing to do at that time. And this movie is kind of old. I don't remember exactly when, but I want to say
it
maybe.
must have been like early 2000s, because she won the pageant in 2000. So maybe like around 2002,
Yeah,
something
I
like
think
that.
you're right. I
Yeah.
think you're right. It's around that time. So certainly, so starting from there, she has done some amazing, groundbreaking kind of roles that would be a hard act to follow. Would be hard act
Yes.
to follow for other young heroines that we have now
Well,
currently.
one thing I want to add that I didn't talk about before was Priyanka Chopra does not come from any film family legacy, which most Bollywood stars, there's a lot of nepotism. Actually, the opposite female lead in Ethraz is a third generation film
Yes,
industry person. So
yes.
Priyanka Chopra's background is totally different. Both her parents were doctors in the military, and actually Priyanka Chopra's her IQ is very high. She wanted to be an aeronautical engineer, but then once she won the pageant, she decided
I
to go
heard
into
that.
Bollywood.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I love the fact that her mother and I share a name.
Oh, she should be happy that she shares a name with you. Okay, so moving along. Okay, the next movie I want to talk about is Krish. Now, Krish was also a very groundbreaking movie. I remember this is also a sequel. I mean, no, this is actually one of the first
First.
Bollywood movies to be a sequel. Before that, they did not have sequels. They just had one movie and that was it. So this movie was groundbreaking for many different reasons. First, for being a sequel, and she actually starred in the second and third installments. The first one had a different heroine, but it was about an alien coming to Earth, kind of like E.T., but the alien gives superpowers to the hero, and it's like that. So anyway, so she was roped in for the second installment, which was called Krish. Now, one of the reasons this movie was groundbreaking is because it went to a new level in sound effects and special effects for Bollywood cinema. And I remember like the mask, because he's a superhero. Like Krish is a superhero, like Superman. He just, he has like a very well, Superman didn't have a mask. At least he has a mask. But like in India at that time, I remember like every store, like lines of hundreds of stores, everyone had that black mask for the kids. And like in America, you have a choice. You can either be Spider-Man, Superman, Batman. But in India, it was just Krish or nothing. So what did you think about this movie?
Are you going to absolutely hate me if I tell you that I don't think I saw this movie?
Oh no, that's fine. I mean, that's fine. But like, I want to say on some of the episodes, I want to get like the teens' perspective, especially from someone who was knowledgeable about Bollywood, has been exposed to both Bollywood and Hollywood movies, and that person's going to be my son. My son is 17 years old. He's not going to be on today's episode, but a story I want to share about Krish with my son is a couple of years ago we went to Dubai. And we were so surprised that they had a Bollywood park. Did you know this, Madhu?
Yes, I knew that part of it.
Yeah,
I saw that. Yeah.
Well, we didn't know, and when we found out there's a Bollywood park, of course we got so excited, especially my dad. So we went to Bollywood Park, and
I can imagine that.
It was actually quite an experience. It was just like, it was kind of based on maybe like Universal Studios in America. And you go in, there's like a street, with it's like its own little world. There's all these streets with all these like stores that sell that sell things that relate to Bollywood movies. They have rides, like with all these special effects, like in Universal Studio, you're like seeing this big thing, it's 3D, 4D.
So right?
Yeah, and there's a ride actually based on the Krish movie. And actually I have they take you to like take a photo of you like at the ride with, and so me and my family, I'll show it on another episode, maybe when my son is on, but we have a photo from that. There's even a workshop there's one of the attractions at Bollywood Park where you actually get to be a part of the movie. So you act out all these scenes and they kind of edit it so it looks like you're in the actual movie. Yeah. And I remember my dad did it too. Oh. And we have like these stills from all this act. I'm going to have to show that on my dad's actually going to join us. In a little bit, but let me give a little introduction to my dad. So as earlier I spoke about how he went to Aligarh University. He was very famous in his school. Sure. So years later, when we were in America, my dad went to a reunion for his college. And at the reunion, Aligarh is a very prominent university. People he acted with on stage in college went on to become famous Bollywood stars like Nasruddin Shah. So we went to this reunion, and they were announcing who the three most prominent people were of each department. And this is my paternal grandfather, who was the freedom fighter with Gandhi. I still feel like he passed before I was born, but my dad always said, "Oh my God, if my dad was alive, he would have loved you. He loved daughters, and he would have just loved you because of your personality and all this stuff." And I still feel like he's with me. I've had moments in my life where I've actually felt like his spirit is with me. And so, I mean, like, I would have loved to meet him, but I'm sure he's with me
Such
at.
a handsome man he was. So
Thank you. And someone came to our house. We have a hang up in our house, and just somebody came, just who didn't know us. He's like, "This is a picture with Pandit Nehru touching my dad's hat as a kid." And
oh,
you know what a rare shot that is, because
precious. That is
if you're a
precious.
politician, anybody prominent, and you walk in the street, you can't even move. You have like thousands of people trying to get
And lands of
yeah,
people.
like movie stars in India, I mean, they have it kind of rough. Like they can really not go anywhere because they have hordes of people that will just like surround them. So
I,
this,
I kind of feel sorry for them, don't you? Like, I mean, to let it
I
be
mean, it's
like
a price they pay, I guess. I mean, for the fame, it is. I mean, like when you choose that type of field, you're going to become famous. And yes, I mean, it's very hard. And I'm sure that, I mean, I don't know if they receive training from, if there's anything that they do to prepare, if you want to be an actor. But yeah, it's a very, I mean, there's of course if there's a good sign, there's a bad. This is my father acting on stage at a leaguer. He's
oh,
the man,
yeah.
the third to the right, like in the white.
Yeah, of
That's my dad, and I mean, I remember growing up. Do you remember Madhu? Like,
course.
we were in Beckley, West Virginia. You were in Charleston, West Virginia. We had Diwali shows.
Yeah.
My dad, he would prepare all these skits. Where in one skit he showed different dances. There's my dad, right on cue. You have a long life, Dad. We were just talking about you. My dad,
Came at
Dr.
the right
King. Hi,
time.
Dad. Can you hear us?
I don't think he can.
Hold on. Let's
Yet, at least.
Is he even moving? I don't know. I don't
Hmm.
know. Anyway, more about my dad. Like, so when he was in the Diwali shows, he would do these skits. Like one skit was about Indian heroes and how this is my parents on their honeymoon
Oh,
in
that's
Taj
precious.
Mahal. Like
Oh,
that's like this is like the like many Indian people go to Taj Mahal for their
first
honeymoon.
spot to go.
Yeah, and for my parents, I think for their wedding anniversary a couple of years ago, before Priyanka Chopra got married to Nick Jonas, my dad gifted my mom by staying at Umayyad Palace in Jodhpur. And
What?
they actually stayed. This is before the Priyanka Chopra's wedding. This is my dad's graduation picture from
Oh,
medical school. So of course he took the more stable route, became a doctor, even though he had that love for Bollywood. He's very successful in his chosen field in medicine, but he's very talented in other areas too.
yeah, yeah.
So when it was all over the media, this is again my dad on stage in a leaguer, when the whole hoopla about Priyanka Chopra and her wedding and all the details coming out, they actually showed somewhere the room she stayed at. And my parents were like, you know what, we think we stayed in that exact same room. I actually do. There's a photo. I don't know if they're going to show it or not, but there's actually a photo of my mom and dad at Umayyad Palace.
Oh,
So
really?
I don't know if my dad's having some
You have to
technical
find it.
difficulty or something, but that's
Yeah,
okay. He'll join us when he can.
you'll have
So,
to find that photo
so
to show us.
I remember you were the MC at a Diwali show in Charleston, and you're such a charming and articulate person.
So kind.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's go back to Priyanka Chopra. So we, after Krish, the other movie I want to talk about is Dawn. Now, did you watch the
Oh,
original Dawn? That was one of my favorite movies. This is a remake
oh,
of a Dawn movie from the 70s. Tell
both
us
the
about the movie.
funnest movies ever.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
The
that should be fine.
That's at Omet Palace. They were treated
Oh,
like royalty. Like in
oh my
India,
goodness.
if you go to any of, there's my dad. Now he's upside down.
Yeah, there
You'll
was
figure it out eventually. My dad, like, technology is not kind of his forte, but it's funny. I mean, it's kind of interesting because you're a psychologist and my dad's a psychiatrist.
psychiatrist.
And
Yeah.
actually later, my dad's still upside down. But so anyway, later on in the show, after we speak about Priyanka Chopra's films, I'm going to talk a little bit about what the latest headlines in Bollywood and Hollywood are. And I'm going to touch upon Sushant Singh Rajput, who
Oh,
committed suicide. And, he actually suffered from bipolar disorder. So we're going to talk about that. I would like to hear your thoughts and my dad's thoughts. But right now we're still on Priyanka Chopra.
sure.
So, I'm sorry, my dad's making me laugh. Let me take a sip of water because it's good to hydrate.
Hello, Dr.
Um,
Fahim. Can you hear us yet?
I don't know. I mean, like, I told him, like when we were at home, I practiced with him getting online. I was just like, okay, Dad, this is what you press,
This button,
let's test
right?
it out. But then, he, and I get like this too, compared to my son, like every generation gets, I guess,
I
stronger with
know.
technology wise.
You
So my
should.
son, I mean, he's a little whiz kid. And also when I'll like get so nervous when something happens to my computer and I'll say, please come help me. And he'll laugh at me. He'll be like, Mom, I can't believe you don't like, that's so simple.
Hey,
But
I'm right there. You should see how much fun my grandkids make of me. Okay, especially my
how many grandkids do you have?
techie. I have a grandson and a granddaughter. My grandson just started college this year.
Oh, wow.
Really
That's
not
a,
started college. He's at he's doing online from home.
yeah. Where is he going?
University of Michigan.
Ooh, actually, I was gonna say something. Oh, I'll talk about that later. But back to Priyanka Chopra, Dawn. Okay, now the Dawn that the movie Priyanka Chopra starred in was a remake of a super hit movie from this is again is my parents at Umayyad Palace. But Dawn, the original Dawn, is a super hit movie. It starred one of the most famous Bollywood stars of all time, Amitabh Bachchan. And usually, if anybody around the world that's familiar even a little bit with Bollywood knows Amitabh Bachchan. I actually even met him a couple times. He even went into
Oh, did
politics. Yeah, and when he was in politics, I actually sat in on a parliament meeting when Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister and Amitabh Bachchan was the MLA. Remember? I
yeah.
actually did. I actually sat in that, and I just remember at that time he was starting to lose his hair, and then he got a hair transplant because a lot of Bollywood stars get hair transplants, and he did, and so he was going bald, and all of a sudden he had a whole bunch of hair. But anyway, okay, so my favorite, actually, Zinat Aman, who was in the movie Kurbani, which I mentioned before, which is like my
Fabulous.
favorite
Yeah, yeah.
heroine. She was in Dawn also. So her role, Dawn, is about the underworld and so
Mafia.
mafia. And so Priyanka Chopra actually played Zinat Aman's role in the remake with Shah Rukh Khan, who I met Shah Rukh Khan too. I was on the same plane with him. On another previous show on IBMTV, I talked about that experience, and that maybe on some other episode of my show,
I'm
I'll like
so jealous of you. I want to hang out with you.
well, he was my dad because
I want to go
he's the reason why I
everywhere.
know all this stuff. I'm actually going to be sharing some photos throughout like different shows about some Bollywood stars I met. But do you recognize this Bollywood star? See, if I go too close, it flickers. Do you know who he is?
Salman Khan?
Yeah, Salman Khan, my favorite hero of all time. This, okay, for people who don't know, his father was a famous screenplay writer. He wrote some very famous movies. He is my favorite hero. His one of his first films, which was really which his breakout role was Maine Pyar Kiya, which is like a super hit movie. I think everybody's watched that movie probably over 20, 25 times. I don't know. It was just one of those movies you watch over and over and over again.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
that was his breakout role. He's always been my favorite hero. So I got to meet him at a show in Washington D.C. That of course my dad
Oh
and
my
at that
God.
time my sister's kids, my son was probably only 3 years old. Me and my parents, we all went to meet, and there's all these different movie stars like Kareena Kapoor,
Mhm.
John Abraham. But anyway, so this is Salman Khan, my dad. He
Okay.
looked with his wife beater on because Salman Khan's known for always
I see.
he's very health conscious. He works out a lot and he
Yeah.
shows off his body. He's very proud of his
Oh,
body.
oh
And when
yeah.
he started out, he was very scrawny. Remember, like in
Really?
Manikarki, it was just like
Take
and
his
all of a sudden
clothes
he feel
off.
like this bump gut. Okay, so that and then this. Okay, this is a good picture. This is him with my mom. And that's my son right there, my son in the yellow.
Oh,
That is him when he was like 3 years old. So, I mean, and you can see like everybody's just all around him. My mom kind of snuck in the back and got to him. And okay, so at every show, I'm going to be sharing some photos with
Uh-huh.
me and different celebrities. Okay, so my dad's still upside down.
Oh, Humera, I have to tell you something funny that
Okay,
just as an aside from all this, but because
okay.
my dad is so much into acting and loves Bollywood and all, I was talking to another psychiatrist friend of mine 2 years ago, and do you know that she made a statement and said that a lot of people, frustrated actors or wannabe actors or wannabe stage people, end up becoming either a psychiatrist or a psychologist.
Maybe because to be an actor,
Too
you get
long to be
into the
like,
brain of the character,
yeah,
you actually become that person. In order to become that character, you have to understand that character.
because
And
I
actually,
too love
one of the movies I'm going to talk about with Priyanka Chopra is Fashion, which I'll talk about. Actually, let's talk about that's the next movie we're going to talk about. So, okay, with Dawn, I just want to say one more thing. That was also a sequel. She was in both Dawn 1 and Dawn 2. This was her first action movie where she actually had to learn martial arts. She went through extensive training. And
Shuri.
actually, the director of that movie said that it was such it was such a good thing that she was doing her own stunts because it allowed him to take different camera angles. So she did that, she learned everything, and she's going to actually, some more movies I talk about and more shows, she's actually going to even get more into the character and learn more of different
Yeah.
arts. So, okay, the next thing we want to talk about is fashion. And one of the things I wanted to, which we were talking about earlier, is that for fashion, Priyanka Chopra, she actually was hesitant, which is another theme I found in her movies, are that some movies where her role is a little challenging, she was very hesitant to take on the role. She didn't think she could do it. She didn't have confidence in her own abilities from the beginning. Not now, but this is earlier in her career. So
Yeah.
she had to be convinced to play roles, and fashion was one of them. She was offered the role, and she didn't think she could do it. She thought it was out of her scope. And then I think after 6 months of like the director trying to convince her, she finally said, "Okay, I'll do it." And in order to get into the character, she actually started studying method acting. So method acting, can you explain what method acting is?
No, not
Oh, okay,
really.
no, because it's like a
I will
method
let you do
acting.
the honors.
Method acting is like what some, let me think of some Hollywood stars that do it, like Joaquin Phoenix, I think, is one who was in Walk the Line, and he was in The Joker. And also another one is Jared Leto, who is in Suicide Squad. He played the Joker. What
Oh,
method acting is what you do. Also, the guy who's in Last of the Mohicans, the actor, I can't remember his name right now, but he's also the lead actor. He also practices method acting. What that means is, in order to get into the character, you become that character at all times. Like, you never get out of character. Even when you're not being filmed, you
yes.
are that character. Like the Joker, with everybody, the way he responded, even with just his friends, he was the Joker. He wasn't
Uh,
like Jared Leto, or, like. So, okay, so she did that. And what did you think of the movie Fashion? It's based on the Bollywood, like the Indian fashion industry,
yeah.
because India, I mean, people kind of they have misconceptions. When they think of India, they think of maybe a third world country and poverty, and but then India is very glamorous. Also, it has a different
Abs-
side.
Absolutely, because the Indian fabrics and the colors and the embroidery and exactly and
This
the
is my interpretation of the red carpet, but with the Indian twist. So this is like the red carpet. If I don't know if you can see it, but in India, okay, Indian people love bright colors. We love
yes,
sparkly. We love to shine.
bling
And I can't really see
bling.
the outfit I had on, but it's actually a gold. I don't. You can't really see it, but so like I mean, even when I like wear like Western outfits, I love wearing things that kind of glitter and are kind of
Literally,
sparkly.
yeah.
And so Indian
We
fashion,
all
like,
do. And the Indian designers have exploded on the world stage. If you've been following that, there are so many of them that the celebrities are wearing, not just Priyanka Chopra, but I mean the actresses from Hollywood are contributing to so many of them. There are models who love some of the Indian designers.
yes. And
And
it's interesting you say that, because one of my guests that is supposed to be on one of my future shows is a big fashion designer in Bollywood. His brother is a big designer in New York City. He's of Indian descent, who has designed for J Lo. He's
oh,
designed for Michelle Obama. He's designed for Bollywood stars. And the fashion designer who I plan to have on my show, his family is one of the few families in India that actually does real gold, and like they do real gold.
oh, I think that was a thing
This.
of the past. It used to be real gold and real silver thread embroidery in the saris and the outfits. But because once gold became so expensive, no one did that anymore. But this
Yeah.
you're talking about actually does that?
Oh
You
yeah, and they're planning to be on my show. But another thing I want to mention that you said is like back I study different topics, and one is about Egypt. And what I studied was that like gold medal, silver medal. The reason originally why they were considered like it's precious metals is that like
yes,
is
yes.
because of their healing properties. Like gold and silver have certain like if you against your skin, copper also if they put it against your skin, it actually heals you.
You,
And that's the reason why it was so precious to begin with. But in
you.
India, I mean, Indian jewelry is like its
Oh,
whole own episode, its
oh.
whole season, actually.
It's several sessions, okay?
Yeah. And like I said, I was born in Hyderabad, which is the city of my dad.
Yeah.
Okay. I should actually call my dad, just put him on speakerphone and be like, hey, Dad, you want to talk about. Maybe I will, actually. Let's see if we can do
Hyderabad,
that. Let's see if we can
Hyderabad.
just call my dad. Hold
Okay.
on.
It's not just the Hyderabad pearls, it's just the Hyderabad jewelry. The designs are so exotic.
Yeah, and they have lines of pearl stores and even gold stores and other, but
Yes.
especially pearl stores because that's where every pearl in the world's
Oh,
processed there. I'm gonna give
absolutely.
my dad a call.
Okay,
Why don't you talk
let's
about
try that.
fashion a little bit, like what you liked about that movie or what you
Look,
didn't like? Or
the movie had so many facets to it. It wasn't just about fashion. It wasn't just about on the runway. It's all the things that happen behind the scenes. It's all the relationships that happen, all the backbiting that happens. Can you get your dad? Oh,
Hi, okay, my dad's online. Hey, Dad, listen, you're upside down in our show, but can we? Is your mic and if it's not on here, you can come. You can join us via the phone. I'll put you on speakerphone. Let's see if I'll ask Mother how it sounds. Okay, you're gonna be on speakerphone in a second. Okay?
okay.
Okay.
Can you
Hello,
hear now?
hello, Dr. Fahim. How are you? You can hear me?
Okay, it's not. Okay, it's not working. Dad. I don't know what. Like, wait. If you don't figure it out, that's okay. By the next show, we'll figure it out. Okay? Okay, I love you.
You'll have to give someone to join me.
Okay. It's gonna take practice. That's okay. At least he got on the show somehow. At least he's there. Like even if he can't speak or hear us, at least he made it to one level. Like so hopefully next show he'll be able to figure it all out. At least he figured somehow. So he's a very bright and intelligent man. Don't like get me wrong. It's just that technology is not
Oh,
his. And we all have different areas that we're good at,
plus,
and technology is not his.
he
But
has
he's good at many other things.
he has
Okay,
my
let's get
sympathy, okay? So the fashion touched upon so many different things. It touched upon the drug scene, it touched upon anorexia, it touched upon the very basis of human, the basis of the human nature. How
yes.
people can be backbiting and all for themselves. It touched upon all the negative aspects of the human mind. And
Yes.
but it was so beautifully done that it was enjoyable to watch, even though you felt tortured watching it and thinking,
Yeah.
seriously?
But one fact, I don't know if you're aware, is that before that film came out, Priyanka Chopra had a string of flops. Like people were saying her career's over. And Fashion is the movie that kickstarted her career again. And
Yeah.
because she took it was an experimental role because before that there weren't any movies that had only a female lead characters. There were men in the movie, but they were not the lead. It was based on women. And for a movie to be female led and to be that big of a hit, it was a groundbreaking movie, and it did shed light onto like all the negative aspects of the fashion industry. Even though Priyanka Chopra said the movie Fashion is not really about what goes on in the fashion industry, the movie's about what those characters, the choices they made, and the consequences. So let's we're coming. I want to move it on to Dostana. Did you watch Dostana?
Oh yeah, one of my most favorite movies to watch. Unusual theme, fun, light-hearted movie, but a very bold theme at the same time.
Yes, exactly. It was also a very groundbreaking movie. It was produced by Karan Johar, which is one of the most well-known producers in India. And he, the basis of this movie is actually a remake of Chuck and Larry with Adam Sandler. And what it is, it's about two male characters. In this Indian movie, it's played by two big heroes. Actually, Amitabh Bachchan's son and John Abraham, who I met. I met John Abraham. I'm going to show photos of him in another episode. He was also one of my favorites. Anyway,
Anymore.
he was really handsome. Okay, so in this movie, in Dostana, they're not gay, but they play a homosexual. They pretend to be gay in order to get an apartment with, to share an apartment with a girl, and who is a Priyanka Chopra's character. So this movie was groundbreaking because in India before that, it was a taboo subject. I mean, nobody talked about it. Even in villages, I read that people, even at that time, were not even aware of what homosexuality was. They weren't even aware that this was a lifestyle. Because in India, you have to understand in India, I mean, you understand this, but I'm just saying the audience, like, there's many villages, many rural areas, and then there's big cities. But you can go to a village with just maybe less than 100 people, or you can be in a city with millions. So another reason this movie was groundbreaking is because one of the characters who played like one half of the gay couple, it shows in the movie his mother accepting his homosexuality and, like, you know, accepting it. And so that was also very groundbreaking. And Karan Johar, the producer, said that after the movie was released, he got flooded with thousands of letters from teens and young adults, and just so thankful that he did this movie and made their family more aware and more understanding and more accepting of their lifestyle. So it was a very groundbreaking movie. Now there's two more movies I want to touch upon before the end of the show. One is Barfi, the next movie. Now with Barfi, Priyanka Chopra she took another very bold move and played an autistic girl. Now, when the director the director's wife suggested Priyanka Chopra for the role, but the director at first did not want to cast Priyanka Chopra because he thought at that point she had become a superstar. You know, she was like Priyanka Chopra. So he was scared that if he cast her as the autistic character, that her persona would overshadow and people would not see the character but rather see Priyanka Chopra. But then after she acted in a couple workshops, he was convinced that she could play the role, and it ended up being the biggest hit of that year. What do you think about that movie?
Fantastic. I absolutely love the movie. And of course, you know, being a psychologist,
yes,
I was always fascinated with autism and Asperger's syndrome and such. I thought she did a tremendous job. She did a lot of research before she got into that role.
And she was very deglamorized. Like, she had no makeup on, you know. I mean, it was compared to what you saw about Priyanka Chopra before that, every role was like a glamorous, like, you know, full makeup and hair. And it was a totally different role. And people, it made people look at Priyanka Chopra and her talents differently. Like, it brought her a different, you know, she was breaking new ground for her. So that movie was that year, it was India's entry into the 85th Academy Awards for Best Foreign Film. It did not win, but it was its entry. Yes. So now I want to talk about another movie, Mary Kom.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
She trained like crazy for that movie.
And she had another thing was she was hesitant to take that role as well, because she was hesitant because it was such a demanding role. She had to learn boxing, she had to muscle building and training and all this, but then
she spent a lot of time with
there's a picture of her in it. But yeah, there was some controversy with her being in the movie because Mary Kom is from Northeast India, and Priyanka Chopra is from North India. So there was some criticism saying, why couldn't they choose someone who was more from the area that Mary Kom and looked more like Mary Kom? Yes. Okay, so that's what I want to do now is I want to kind of like talk about what my future episodes are going to be on, because I think from that point, after that, Priyanka Chopra took the leap to Hollywood. She was in Quantico, which was groundbreaking. It was the first South Asian to be the lead of a dramatic series on a main ABC network. She actually won 2 People's Choice Awards. First South Asian to win a People's Choice. The first one was for the first one was for favorite actress in a new series. Second one was favorite dramatic TV actress.
Absolutely.
So it made her a household name in America. Yes. I mean, she was like, everybody was so excited in Hollywood to interview her, to like meet her. I mean, they heard that she was the superstar from Bollywood is coming to Hollywood, and it was just like a huge thing. But besides Quantico, what I thought was she also starred in Baywatch, and she starred in some other movies, but they weren't that good. You know, they weren't like, I thought after Quantico, she became more popular for her personal relationships, like with Meghan Markle. You know, she attended that wedding. She married Nick Jonas. I mean, there was so much focus on her personal life more than actually her films.
Do you know a funny fact about Quantico? Quantico was the only thing that she ever auditioned for. When she
Oh, I didn't know that.
and they would just, because she was Miss World, they just, and she became part of the scene. So she never gave a formal audition till she auditioned for Quantico when she came here. That was, she was saying, it was an unusual experience. She was already such a success in Bollywood,
It was a humbling experience for her.
and then to have to audition for a role,
Yeah.
she
Well, I
said,
think
very interesting experience with that.
See, I think after now she's finally kind of come in her own in Hollywood. Some of the projects her future projects coming out are very big projects. Like one is, well, she's doing 2 films for Netflix. One's going to be a superhero movie, and now because of the pandemic and everything, since people weren't watching movies in the theater, Netflix and other like Amazon Prime and Hotstar in India, I mean, they're becoming huge. Like everybody's getting the entertainment from that.
Yes.
But the movie I'm the most excited about for her to be in is Matrix 4. Now, Matrix 1, the first Matrix, was is actually my favorite movie, probably my top 3 favorite movie of all time from Hollywood. When that came out, Trinity, are you familiar with The Matrix?
Yes.
The movie. Okay, remember Trinity? She had short hair. So
Yeah.
I remember I was living in Cleveland at the time, and I cut my hair short like Trinity. And I actually that's Keanu Reeves, but she was wearing. I mean, she had short hair and she had like that latex outfit. I wore that for Halloween. Like I was her for Halloween, and everybody even recognized her. Like, oh, you're Trinity. I was like, yeah. So actually, the second and third Matrix movies that came after the Matrix, I didn't like them. They weren't as big as the Matrix 1. So it's been like a gap. It's been a gap since the third one came and now the fourth one. So it's very anticipated because it seems Keanu Reeves and the cast are finally excited with the script. So they agreed to do a fourth one. So I'm excited about what's going to happen with that. Her other project that's coming up that I think you'll probably actually enjoy too. I mean, I think we'll all enjoy is because she's teaming up with Mindy Kaling from The Office fame.
Yes.
It's going to be a comedy about an Indian wedding, like big fat Greek wedding, but Indian. And actually, there was a huge bidding war from the studios who wanted to actually get this movie. Universal won the bidding war, so I don't even know how much they paid to get the story and to get them to produce this movie. But like I said, one thing I want to talk about, latest news in Priyanka Chopra. I don't know if you're aware of this, but a couple of days ago, people were able to start pre-ordering her new memoir called Unfinished, which is coming out in January 2021. Now, just by people starting to buy the pre-orders, in 12 hours, it became the #1 selling book from Amazon US. Did you know that?
Not know that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's obviously an interest in her. There's, like I said before, there's something about her that connects with the audience. She also does very charitable work, like you were saying. She's a UNICEF ambassador. And when she was in Bollywood, I have to say I wasn't a big fan of hers in Bollywood. But then when she came to America and I started actually learning more about her and listening to her talk, and then I really have become a fan now. And I mean, like, she's a trailblazer. I mean, now, like, growing up in India, we have someone to identify with, who's not like a villain in an Octopussy James Bond movie, or, you know what I mean? Like Irish Puri in Temple of Doom, he's the one who pulls out the heart. I mean, like, we actually have a positive female role model. Yeah. And I'm really thankful for that. So we have 1 minute left for my show. So this show's been lots of fun. Thank you so much, Madhu.
And I enjoyed it. Thank you for
So I want the audience to stay tuned. This show is going to be HumeraWood. It's going to air every Tuesday live, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be for an hour. It's going to be on ibmtv, ibm.tv. And my friend Melody, she's a friend of mine. She's American, no Indian background, but she loves Bollywood movies. She's going to give a quick introduction. She's going to be on some of my shows too. So this is Melody Rogers.
Okay.
I don't know, the volume's not coming. Well, she's basically, what she's doing, she's talking about how she started to love Bollywood movies. It seems she was just looking on the internet and she came across the movie My Name is Khan. Shah Rukh Khan.
Uh-huh.
And she said the music, I mean, she said she had never heard anything like that. And she said she started to cry like when she heard the music was so emotional and it was just so like touching. And
Oh,
that led her to
that.
want to listen to more Bollywood music. And she loves Bollywood. And so I want to get her point of view, you know, about different subjects. So she's going to be a future guest. I also have a show that's going to be about music, about how Indian music has inspired
Oh, oh,
Hollywood music. I'm going to have some people who are in the music field, from DJs to who have performed in Nepal and in Dubai and who incorporate Indian sounds in their music, to my
sure.
friend who is the former bass guitarist for the legendary punk rock group, the Ramones. I Want to Be Sedated.
Ah,
He's from New York City, and he's going to join us. And actually, the
oh,
host of on IBMTV, there's a show about funk music, and I was speaking with the host of that show like yesterday or 2 days ago. And when I mentioned that on one of my shows, my friend Dave Uhal from the Ramones is going to be on, he got so excited because it seems he grew up in New York, just down the street from where they grew up. So he
ah,
wants to be on that show
oh,
too.
wonderful.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna have some people that were in a fusion band who mixed Indian music with American music. And I'm gonna also try to have my cousin, who was the lead singer of a band that won the Hollywood Awards for Best Alternative Rock Group. He's an
What?
orthopedic surgeon by day, and this is what he did more
Are you
like just as a
serious? Oh,
yeah. And then we're gonna have some others like the fashion designer. We're gonna have so I have so many lovely shows planned, entertaining shows. I hope you enjoyed this show.
I
And
did
so thank you, Madhu, so
so much
much for
fun.
helping me and for
Thank
giving me your opinion,
you
just being yourself, your loving, charismatic,
so much.
charming
So kind.
self. And I look forward to having you on more shows.
And good
Namaste,
luck to
everyone.
you.
Namaste.
Namaste and good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.
Yeah,
God bless everyone.
absolutely.